It's 10:09 on a Saturday morning. I've got safety goggles. That means it's time for Nerdsteading. Hi, my name is Brian. Welcome to my spacious barn. When I did the farm tour, I didn't actually show you... where's my hand? There it is. That room behind the white door. That is going to be our first improvement since we've actually got a new roof on the barn. The previous barn roof was 4 different styles of roofing, all of which were old, a little bit rusted, and I fixed with enough Flex Seal to fill the exhibit space of a state fair. It turns out it's cheaper to re-roof your barn than it is to paint the entire thing in Flex Seal, even if it's free shipping and you get a free roll with every purchase.
So I turned the boat into a flying sleigh. Yeah!
Okay, I'm not sure what they used this room for before, but right now it's kind of rigged as storage. It is not badly put together, let's be honest. It's a lot of OSB on the walls, some seams, a little gapping there. It's got this cool upper shelving. Why is there metal exterior barn siding in the inside of the barn? Because this barn used to just be this used to be the outside wall of the barn. So apparently over the years this barn was added onto. They started out building the barn to, and I'm not kidding, this is not a euphemism, farm mushrooms. But then they expanded it out for horses. You got these lovely stalls down the center, but that means that the barn is kind of a patchwork. The advantage of this is that this wall I'm pointing to right here, this wall is insulated. This is the exterior wall where we have some electrical work that'll be fixed hopefully next week related to the solar project. This has no insulation. This has some insulation, but again, it's this kind of gappy OSB thing happening here. But once you get closer to the top, there wasn't insulation until we had the barn re-roofed and they put an insulating layer. By the way, this is the way that I'm doing the lighting in the room right now. Rather than walking into a dark room, stumbling in and trying to find the cord on a fluorescent light ballast, I've got one of these Harbor Freight light switches. So this is plugged into one of the few live outlets in this room. Yes, even though the breaker panel is in here, most of the outlets on the wall are dead. And it's got a battery-operated little switch here. It's like 16, 17 bucks. Cost about as much as the light, as far as I can tell. But it works, and it allows me to turn the light on and off coming into this room. Question is, what the hell is this? Like, I found this thing. My wife is like, what are you doing? I'm monologuing. I'm doing you. What the hell's happened to you? Think I'm one of these...
You sly dog! You got me monologuing!
No, seriously, this was like hanging on the wall. This is hanging on the wall behind a shelf. We don't know what it is, but it's big and it's metal, and we're not going to include it in the new construction.
I am your wife. I'm the greatest good you are ever going to get.
So now that we've got all the other crap out of here, you can see what we're looking at. The OSB on the walls is not terrible. It does have this problem of gapping there, but there's not a board or anything behind it. There are some vertical boards missing or in the middle of these, and the horizontal boards are... they're spaced okay. The bottom is a little problematic. It's got trim that obviously is covering up some holes and things. And if you come all the way around the floor to here, there's a little bit of water damage. But it's not terrible, so we might just slap a trim board over that and call it a day.
It's dry now.
Yeah, we're not going to put the freezer here. No matter what the floor tells you, we're not putting the freezer there.
And we have the floor drain to nowhere.
Well, I'm sure it went somewhere, but that somewhere is now filled with like lint and hay, so that's not happening. So I think the next step here, take the shop vac. Oh, by the way, we had to buy a shop vac because once we moved...
It's so cute.
It's so cute. It's always a little, like, 3 horsepower. But the problem is that we have our shop vac, which is mighty. We can't find the hose or the attachments for it. So we now own a shop vac in like...
2/3.
Yeah, 1 2/3 shop vacs. So get up here with the shop vac and vacuum off whatever's on those shelves. Let's not document that too carefully. Get this freestanding shelf out of here, which this is it after we vacuumed it. This is the cleaner version of the shelf. So this may never be seen again. We don't know. Then probably start working on the kickboards and any kind of wall improvements we can do on this side. This wall is going to have to wait till next week. This is where the electricians have to work on Monday to get the solar going. So I don't really want to mess with that because I don't know where all the wire routing is going to go. Eventually, I do want these network cables on the floor to go probably... and you know what? Since we're actually going to keep the shelving up here, I think some area up here will probably be for the networking gear because it'll be near power that's not tied to the barn aisle light switch. While we're talking about power, there's a lot of old phone cord and dead outlets in here. We'll probably start clearing a few of those out. This outlet works. This outlet does not. They ran a lot of like phone cable and coax in here. They did at one point have satellite TV, and it ran from the guest house through this hole. So we'll probably do something about that too. The good news is we can see through the hole and tell that it was insulated. Yes, remember I had that conversation earlier about our brand new shop vac that we had to go buy it because we couldn't find the hose for the other one? Well, there's the hose. It was hiding behind the air compressor. Then I went looking for the attachments, and it turns out Susan's... We moved in the house in like August, and it's April now. And we swore there were a couple things that made it like one of Susan's old saddles. It is, it's in the trash can that we've been keeping tools in. I don't know why we didn't look in there before we started putting tools in it, but that's a saddle in a bag. That's also Christmas wrapping paper. I don't know why that's in there. Anyway, yeah, it just looks like we've just never completely unpacked. I still can't find the attachments for the thing, so, but they might be under the saddle. Anyway. Alright, happy Sunday, everybody. So, we went out and did a little bit of gardening this morning, and then we made decisions about this room. We're going to take out the existing strip that's on the floor that kind of covers over what looks like previous water damage. This room has a drain in the floor, so we think they washed some things in here that they probably shouldn't have. But it's not really worth trying to take the OSB out because they built the shelves on top of the walls. So if we wanted to redo all of the siding in the room, we'd have to take down the shelves, which, again, we just decided we didn't want to do. Once that's done, then we're going to redo this door. We do want this to be a kind of secure and locked room. The door behind me is not an exterior grade door, so it's not quite as strong, and it doesn't really have a setup for a deadbolt. So we are going to just take that door out entirely and put in a properly framed exterior grade door and put in some new lock hardware.
Yeah, the door frame on this is kind of garbage, so we went with a pre-hung door. First, you take out the old door. Hopefully they use screws on that. Makes it a little bit easier. Take the entire frame away. You don't even have to take the door off the hinges. And when you buy a pre-hung door, the important measurement is not the door width. It's actually the opening where the frame of the door is going to go. Because it's a pre-hung door, comes with its own frame, that's going to sit inside the 2x4s. Check that measurement, go to Lowe's, get the corresponding door, slide the new frame into place. It helps if you have a friend. I think my wife likes me. She's helping me with this. Get the door level. For us, it didn't take that long.
Crap. It's
level.
It's level. I swear.
Don't touch it.
And then hold it in place, and without affecting the levelness of the door, put shims in. Use shims to fill the gap in between the outside of the door frame and the 2x4s. Then drill through the shims and cut off the excess. You can score the wooden ones with a utility knife and then break them off, but I gotta be honest, there's a satisfying little snapping noise that the synthetic shims make when you break them off. And then after that, it's a wonderful time-lapse video of me installing some lovely, pristine deadbolt lock hardware. So pretty.
Alright, we made a mess, but we also made a door. Look at this. Yay! One exterior grade door that closes. And it's got a header at the top. Screwed into the wall. Huh? I can't. You locked me out. The lock works. Thank you. She loves me. She let me in. And then we put the 2x8 at the foot. It's probably the most stable thing on the wall, to be perfectly honest. But these at least give us a stable spot. We can start putting shelves up in this area, which means that we don't really care what the walls look like, except for this stupid little hole. I still gotta fill you in. Alright. Bye-bye hole. Yeah. I know. Why do it right when you can do it with spray foam? Hey, we finished the tack room. I'm pretty happy with this. It's not as much work as we thought we were going to do to it originally, but it gets the job done, especially this completed wall behind me. Yeah, it's OSB. Not a fan, but we framed out the wall properly. We put everything on the correct demarcation so that when we put up a 4-foot sheet of OSB, it lined up with wall studs. That's kind of nice. So we didn't have the gapping problems we had on the existing OSB covered walls. The floor in here, not level. Again, that's kind of intentional. There's a drain here, but oh, it's seriously not level. So cutting into the corners is a little bit of a pain, and we did the same trick we did on the other walls where we put in a 2x8 piece of wood, kind of as a trim piece slash kickboard, so we don't have to worry about like everything's getting pushed against the wall causing any additional damage. Now, over by the breaker panel, made a couple of changes. One is that I took out the dedicated freezer outlet. I know that seems kind of stupid, right? It's a perfectly good outlet there. It's on its own 20 amp breaker. And wait, Brian, didn't you say you didn't do your own electrical work? Well, if I'm going to pull new cables or put in something like a GFI outlet or maybe pull heavier cabling or replace a breaker, I tend to go with the professionals on that. I don't know Oregon electrical code, but I understand electricity pretty darn well. So it turns out taking an outlet out of a barn when it is on about a foot of cable and you can very easily trace it back to the breaker panel, that's pretty damn simple. Just make sure that you actually turn off the main breaker. Just because you switched off that breaker doesn't mean you can actually go into the panel and take anything else out because the panel's still energized at that point. Kind of dangerous. Why did I take the extra outlet out? I'd like the 20 amps of overhead in the panel when we do the shop. I'm going to use, the existing outlets that are over there, plus probably another 20 to 40 amps to make sure I have enough for all the power tools we want to put there. So, yeah, I'm saving myself some overhead later. I know I'm going to have an electrician come out at some point and pull extra outlets and cable for the shop. So, I left myself a little bit of a access panel on the side of the breaker. Is instead of trying to do a complicated cutout for the outlet boxes and the service panels and stuff, I just used the scrap OSB, cut it to size, and sort of jigsaw puzzled my way around the outlets and the breaker box and the stuff that's a little bit closer to the corner. Again, that floor is not very level, so trying to do a long board cut to cover all of that's sort of a pain. Nothing's really square over at the edge of that wall, so it's easier to fit when you scrap some stuff in knowing you're going to put that big piece of trim at the bottom. Now that also means that it's very easy for an electrician to come in and remove just that one kind of service panel that I've left them in OSB. Take out a couple of screws and you have access to pull more cable. Now, some of the things we did cover over are wiring related to the barn. There is that service line that is going from the new main that was pulled for the solar to the barn panel. And a little bit of an access hatch there for the cabling. So we took a jigsaw and cut out a hole for that so we can get to it in case it needs to be serviced, and just put a scrap piece of OSB over it so it's easy to find and easy to access. We kept all the original shelving at the top. Yeah, the added storage in here, some of it is mail order racks that Susan picked up for things like bridles and saddles, and some of it's just rolling Costco stainless steel shelving that we had from Georgia. Just put it back together, and Susan's got the room pretty much laid out the way she likes it, including this nice little stainless table over here for doing food and vitamin prep for the ponies. So, now we've cleared out a bunch of space in the barn. We've cleared out a bunch of space in the aisle. Hopefully that'll give us room to start working on our next project. Until we start that one, come back for some more nerd steading, won't you? Thanks, and take care.